MSI final, game 1 Caps against Jensen. I'm super hyped. However, this is going to be a slow start to the series. I will cover the entire series, and I also covered the G2 against SKT semi-final, all 5 games, so check that out. So slow start I'm saying because you can see Caps playing Morgana against an Orianna, so control mages usually mean quite a boring lane, and also Caps rarely plays supportive champions. He never really did that before, but now because he has such great players around him, he is willing to take the back foot and just play completely supportive style. If you look at Cap's statistics, he has not that high CS because he is roaming so much. He roams the most of any mid laner in the entire tournament, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's true. I think I checked that stat somewhere. Now, if you are playing a supportive champion and an enabler, your priority is not to get yourself fed, but enable your team to be fed and then carry. So you have the carry top laner in Swain, you have Jarvan, which is not really a carry jungler, but you have Zyra Khan, so you can see you don't have a lot of front line, you don't have that much supporters. That's why if they went with a carry mid laner, it doesn't create that balanced kind of team composition. You usually want to have about 2 to maybe 3 carries and 2 supportive to 3 supportive champions. So right now, I believe he will just try to go for the priority. We'll see how he sets up this wave. His both Jensen and the wave is W. Doesn't dodge Orianna's Q. Happens completely fine. Still tethering. Right now he's standing outside of the distance of Orianna Q and he keeps moving. Now this trade was pretty interesting. So let's rewind a little bit. Now what is happening here? If you ident, both mid laners are thinking the same thing. Caps is thinking, I want this minion. What will happen if I try to get this minion? Jensen will use his Q to try to punish me. What Jensen is thinking about is, Caps wants this minion. What can I do to maybe punish him? And because Orianna wins the trade here, so whenever you're trading, you're calculating how much damage can I do, for how much damage will they do, and what can I do to outplay that? So this is just level 1, not really anything fancy, nothing mechanical, so no big outplays. And this is just mostly about timing, because whenever Caps or anyone, you or me, are last hitting, we are locked in place, and that's the best time for enemies to hit skill shots. Now both players know this, and it's all about timing. So Jensen fires it a little bit too early, but also thanks to the fact that Caps knows that and keeps walking up. So let's go frame by frame, see? And he dodges the Q and then throws the skill shot. So Jensen got a little bit impatient. He should have done an auto attack, and then once the minion was really low, then he would Q and win the trade really hard. And this just forces the enemy player to either dodge the skill shot, but if you are dodging you can't attack, so you won't be last hitting and miss the gold, or you attack, get the gold, but eat the damage. So this would be Jensen forcing Caps into a lose-lose situation, but because he didn't time it correctly or didn't play it correctly, it doesn't happen. So let's continue. Caps is getting the mid lane priority right now. Also, whenever you think about your mid lane matchup, you also need to think about the junglers, how they come into play. So Jarvan, pretty powerful early game jungler, but they still don't have that much threat on the Orianna unless she's very overextended. So this is a beneficial lane state for Jensen right now. In a sense, if he freezes, he's pretty safe from ganks, and he just wants to farm up. Now, if he lets Caps push this entire wave on tower, it will bounce, and that could make it so that he will be easily gankable. Now, on the other side, Skarner and Orianna, they have zero threat to gank Morgana. So it's also good for Morgana to push the wave to have priority, which he is trying to do so. So right now, I believe Jensen would like to freeze this, and Caps would like to break the freeze, which is happening right now. And you break the freeze when you push the entire minion wave under the tower. That always results in a bounce, and that means that the freeze is broken and the enemies will start eventually pushing back, unless you hit the minions again like Caps is doing now. So notice how he is hitting only the caster minions with his W, and that is because he doesn't want to fast push, he just wants to slowly push the wave. And then he has his priority. Let's see how he will use it. Goes into fog right now, just places down a ward. This is pretty good ward, protects his bot lane from ganks. And then he knows he can walk up this aggressively because he is not under any threat whatsoever against Skarner or Orianna, especially pre-6, but even after 6 with Morgana's Black Shield, it's impossible for Skarner to do anything. So right now, he is hovering to bot side jungle because he has his jungler there. And if you have a neutral stance in the game, you just wanna farm and there's nothing big going on, you usually wanna stand close to your jungler because that's where you have pressure. You can help your jungler or get help from your jungler. You just have to run to the side he is and then away from the enemy jungler for the same reason, because you want to make it harder for enemy jungler to approach you. So as you can see, the trades are really nothing insane. This is just pure wave clear matchup, and it's mostly on basically Orianna scaling and Morgana here trying to get the priority and help the team. So Caps immediately channels the TP. He knows that Orianna cannot cancel him, and here it doesn't matter for him. If you think in perfect scenarios this TP was not optimal, he is going to lose one minion wave in the mid lane and he didn't really achieve anything here. The thing is, first things first, he is a supportive champion, so just making sure, because it's a split decision, right? It's very hard in a blink of a moment where any second could change the outcome of the fight to decide, okay, is this a good play? Is this not a good play? So he rather TPs to make sure there's no way it's a bad play, because the much worse, the risk is not that high. He just lost a 1 minion wave, and considering he is a supportive champion that doesn't really need that much farm, it's completely fine by him to guarantee the play. So as I said, supportive style, it's nice to see something different from Caps occasionally. Now what we should know is that Jensen was farming all this time, so he hits level 6 before Morgana. Now in this matchup it absolutely doesn't really matter, but imagine, okay, so Caps goes a little greedy here, face checks level 6 Orianna and eats a lot of damage. This is pretty good for Jensen's lane state. Also, his jungler is in bot lane, so Caps cannot get help from Jarvan at this moment. What Jensen is doing now, he's just zoning Caps from the minions. So I believe he will try to freeze this and then walk up to zone Caps. Right here, he is testing limits. This is one of the risky Caps plays that could have absolutely backfired. So let's rewind a little bit. Now here, Jensen realizes, okay, I cannot get ganked, enemy jungler is bot lane, and Morgana is very low, and the wave is also bouncing, so let's rewind even a little bit more. And as I always say, guys, if you push the entire wave, so both the casters, they're dead now, so they don't matter, but imagine they were casters, all the wave under the range of the tower, that it will kill all of them eventually, that results in a bounce, and this side will regain pressure, and as long as both mid laners don't touch the minion wave, this minion wave will start pushing, and within 2 to 3 waves, I think it is 2 waves, it will be about here. So that's why Jensen uses this bounce to create a freeze, because he knows he can deny CS and force Caps to base. So in this situation, as Caps, you either just say, okay, I can't do anything, I base. So there you will see that Jensen just doesn't hit the minions and Caps does, which is a bit of a mistake. And here he just positions himself so aggressive because he knows he will win every single trade, and there is a kill pressure right now because Caps is within a little range of Jensen's combo. Again, just using his spells, not auto-attacking, freezing the wave, and Caps is going really greedy here. Maybe he had this calculated, it's absolutely possible, but I really doubt that because he still didn't get the push, since Jensen will just freeze it now and deny minions, I believe. Or is he actually going to decide to push it? Okay, so he goes for the fast push. I think he will still deny some of the Caps' minions. Now what Caps could have done is call his jungler, which was not a viable option in that situation, to help him break the freeze. Then usually what happens, there will be a 2v2 in the mid lane between Orianna Skarner and Morgana Jarvan. So then it's all about who wins, and probably Jensen would win since he had such a big advantage. Okay, so because Jensen was able to push the wave really fast and it wasn't a cannon wave, Caps is still denied most of his CS and Jensen gets a better back. He could have also frozen the wave. Both plays were good. It just depends on what you want, on what you can actually buy. Right now, again, it's resulting in a bounce, right? As I talked before, because the wave was under a tower, now you see the blue minions becoming stronger and stronger, and this is already the second wave when it will start pushing really hard. Caps is playing closer to his top side. That's where he has his jungler, has his pressure, max range W. Now we had some action right now, but still it's a control mage against a control mage matchup, so don't expect anything crazy. Caps is going for a little bit of vision to the side where his jungler is, because right now if he went toward to the bot side, he could get collapsed by the Skarner. Grabs the blue buff, nothing interesting to see, so let's fast forward so you guys don't die from boredom. Max range W, again tethering, making sure he stays outside of Jensen's range. Now has the slight priority, goes into fog of war so he's not seen. If you really don't know what to do and you can poke your enemy, you should always look to go into fog of war so you can play with the minds of your enemies. Right now, Jensen is getting stronger and stronger because he is playing a carry champion, a pretty good scaling champion. It's not like Morgana gets insanely outscaled, it's just in terms of damage, in terms of laning, she is not that powerful. She's more supportive. So in the big fights, she still provides a lot of value compared to Orianna. It's pretty similar, but in the 1v1, she will struggle. You see Jensen, he went for the Sork shoes really early because he just wants to make sure he can dodge all the skill shots from Caps. But now it's a level 7 Morgana, pretty easy to just clear with everything. Gets a nice bind onto the Jensen and also has the blue buff. So if you have a mid laner with a blue buff against a mid laner without the blue buff, even if one is fed and the other isn't, usually that just means that you will be getting a lot easier push against the one that doesn't have blue buff. So you will never see in pro play jungler take a second blue from the mid laner. Another play is coming bot, you see how he is using his F keys. So whenever there is something happening on the minimap, you see champion for both teams seeing each other, you should immediately check. So if, for example, top lane is face checking an enemy top lane in the river or something, you immediately press F key, and then depending on the situation, you will use your mouse movement to see more if you need to, because the F keys are just faster, but obviously you can't get to the exact place you want to see. So that's why first F keys, and then if needed, you will use your mouse movement. This is how you keep up with your map awareness. But right now the game is going beautifully for Morgana. Immediately TPs again just to guarantee the play, even though Skarner and Tompkins just got completely one shot. So another TP with seemingly no value, and he is losing mid lane plating and he is losing mid lane farm. So in a carry matchup, this would definitely be a big bummer. But as I said again, it is a supportive champion, so it doesn't matter too much for him, and perks TP's mid lane to cover. However, I would never call this an optimal play. It's just okay play. You understand the reasons why Caps did it, the same reasons as before. Recall, and now I believe he will walk back into mid lane, swap with perks again. Goes for the Glacial Augment Morgana, just more utility. The slows are really annoying to play against. Now, Wunder almost got a kill. No flash on Gangplank, important to time it. So he actually decides to walk bot lane. And that's pretty strange. I don't think this is that... I wouldn't say it's better than if Caps was mid lane, because actually, yeah, I understand that they swap because they have the Herald there, and if the enemy team doesn't swap, they have only tower to play for, right? However, the team that swaps has the tower, the top lane tower or mid lane tower, and the Herald to play for, so more objectives they can take. Jarvan gets the Herald, however, doesn't pick it up. I mean, kills the Herald, but doesn't keep up the eye. But it's completely fine because you see 5 members in top side of the map, while Caps is denying farm, getting solo plates, and just chilling. So making up for what he lost before. Fast forward a little bit before anything is happening. Gangplank is using his ulti. Caps knows he can go so deep because he just looks at the minimap and knows that the closest enemy is 30 seconds away from his position. So very easy to do whatever he wants, pretty much. 30 seconds, I mean that... So think about it this way. If you are in mid lane, it takes you 10 seconds to go to each side lane on average. Like this and like this. If top lane to bot lane takes around 30 seconds, but nobody walks that far usually, and from bot lane to top lane 30 seconds. So that's why I said people are 15 to 30 seconds away from him. Also from base to the mid of the map, I mean the middle point, not mid lane, but the middle point on the map takes on average around 25 to 30 seconds as well. So he pushed out the entire wave in the bot lane. That's the optimal time when he should be basing. Now he is just going to walk up in the mid lane, because now I believe G2 want to get the top lane and mid lane tower. So let's see how they are going to play it. They sent their bot lane top. That means that your bot lane is usually your strongest unit, because that's 2 people, right? And whenever you send them, that means you probably want to contest the objective around in there. So Caps is just moving around a bit. He knows that Jensen is just pushing a wave now, and it's a cannon wave, so he has a lot of time making sure that his team can get the vision they need there in the case they did collapse, and still goes back to pick up all of the minions. Now walks down, procs the plant to give Wunder a little bit of vision. And now I think, since they got the top lane tower, they will swap it up and they will try to attack the mid lane tower. With Zyra Khan against the enemy team composition, if Tam Kench is not around, it's pretty easy to get a pick, or even on the Tam Kench himself. Puts a ward closer to him, so it's harder. You see the pink ward in the mid lane brush. He puts it close to his side, so it's much easier for him to defend and harder for enemies to approach. Small things matter. And they are using the priority, immediately going into Morgana or Khan combo. And a stopwatch as well. Prex goes a little crazy there. So what G2 did, they just got side lane priority and then they attacked the mid lane. Because mid lane tower, you really want to get it. Again, using his mouse movement to move a bit of camera, or his binding where Gangplank is landing, and G2 are able to pick up 2 easy kills. Now, back to the mid lane tower. If you're playing a control mage matchup or against a control mage in general, you really want to kill their mid lane tower, because if you don't, they are able to wave clear forever and ever and keep scaling, and they will outscale you. So it's so valuable to get this tower because it gives you so much control over the map. If you don't have it, it's much harder to approach the jungle, and it's much easier for the enemy team to contest you at their side of the map. So mid lane tower, the first tower, is the most important tower in the entire game, you could say. Now, it's arguable, but you get the point, right? It's not that big. super big of difference, but just if you can choose a top lane or bot lane or mid lane outer tower, you would always go for the mid lane outer tower. Cap is going for a recall again, TPs into mid lane for tempo. That means that he wants to be on the map faster, he wants to get the priority faster so he can be synchronized with his bot lane and pressure at the same time. Now mid lane tower is really low. I believe that G2 are going to send perks into the side lane. He's strong enough to be alone in there. They will get bot lane and top lane priority and then crash the minion waves under mid lane tower while rotating. So they will dive and attempt to punish Jensen. So Caps got the priority, pops the shadows to scare out the enemies out of the jungle, and back again. So always, this is how you should be playing with the waves. Priority into something, back for priority, and then again something. Always play with the minion waves, don't chase for senseless kills. And right now, Caps is actually not pushing. And you would be wondering why? Well, that's because they wanted to wait for the mid lane wave to crash and pressure when everyone else can come to the mid lane. So right now, if you pause, okay, they get a really easy pick here on this current teams. Now he gets eaten by Tam Kench, but maybe he will go down because of the Jarvan's Cataclysm. Very close, but having the flash of Skarner down is so valuable. Jensen gets a pretty nice Orianna ulti, but baits himself into a quick death. So let's rewind a little bit and let's talk about it, because it's pretty interesting. Because that's no coincidence that Caps just doesn't decide to hit the minion wave, right? And that's because if you are sieging enemies, if you imagine, okay, the best case scenario, the easiest to imagine, I believe, is imagine your team is sieging the inhibs, right? Now, usually in solo queue, what happens is one guy randomly pushes in the mid wave, and then another guy pushes the top wave in different time and bot lane different time. So these waves are not hitting at the same time. What that means is that the enemy team can just send all 5 members to defend one side when this wave comes in. It's defended, and then the other minion wave comes. They can again send most of their members, even 5 members, to defend once this minion wave comes. And then the third comes, and they're just picking them one by one. But imagine if all the minion waves crash at the same time. What does that mean? Well, that means that the enemies have to split up to defend. And if they have to split up, you can imagine that it's much easier to break their base, right? So the split pushers can force the 1v1s or 2v2s, or the side laners can actually collapse into the mid lane. For example, what will happen right now, and well, it will happen here, right? But you get the idea. So that's why you ideally want to sync the wave. So that's why Caps right now is just zoning Jensen from doing anything to the minion wave, keeping this wave healthy and crashing it at the right time. So right now, Wunder just pushed out, and Prex needs a little more time to push this tiny wave, and then he will TP here. Wunder will come, and at this moment, if Team Liquid decide to go all 5 mid, right? Should have used different color. They will be using minion waves and tower damage to the minions in the side lanes. So it's a lose-lose scenario, and this is exactly why Caps is doing this. So we saw this. We can fast forward. See? Side laners are moving in. Perks is TPing to a minion, and they just really want to break this tower. Now, at this moment right now, if you are Team Liquid, you are asking yourself, do we sacrifice the farm in the side lanes, or do we defend the mid lane? In this case, they decide to farm the side lanes. That means that with numbers advantage, G2 are able to easily force this tower, but they are a bit hesitant. Xmity makes a mistake here, but you know, Rakan engage pretty annoying to play against, and they get some easy picks. So fast forward, we saw this. they break the mid lane inhibitor tower and go for a reset. So now I believe that if you're Caps, you just go to base. He's just making sure again that everyone is safe, that Wunder has the black shield if needed, and then they all recall. So as a mid laner, you ask yourself first, what objective are the teams, or especially we, playing around? And then you want to be in the side lane that is closest to that objective. So side lane is either top lane or bot lane. Perks is leashing for Morgana, and that would be a top lane right now because they want to play around Baron, but because he's playing a Morgana, a control mage, it's also fine to keep the mage in the mid lane because they might not be as safe in the side lane, and the AD carry, if the AD carry is safe in the side lane, they can go there as well. But usually you have an AD carry against assassin or a mid laner, they would not be able to deal with the mid laner in the side lane, so that's why they would send the mid laner there instead. But this is a completely different situation. G2 are extremely fed. They force the Baron here with with the vision control they have. They also know Skarner has no flash. They are so strong that there's no way Team Liquid can force a fight, so it was a lose-lose situation for Team Liquid once again. And now G2 are going to play 2 lanes instead of 3. And this is something I noticed they do quite a lot. Whenever you are trying to have control over 3 lanes, it's much harder than playing 2 lanes. So they will sacrifice a little bit of farm in 1 lane to have more control over 2 lanes instead. So you see Wunder sacrificing bot lane and pressuring mid wave instead. So now ideally G2 would crash the mid wave and top wave at the same time. Just as we talked, I think they did it a little too soon. Still great results, but if they crashed a bit later, you imagine that they would be able to push much easier, right? So right now Wunder is bringing in the mid lane wave, and the TL squad can just wave clear it pretty easily and then go back to top lane to defend. So I believe G2 made a little mistake here. Now I'm not 100% sure because obviously I'm not on G2's level, but just thinking about it, it makes complete sense to me. Orianna again gets a beautiful shockwave, but in doing so she overextends, and this is at least a 10k gold lead, so they are still just getting completely demolished. And you see that Wunder is doing so much work. Just a supportive game from Caps. I believe that the game will end here, potentially. They still have minion waves, a lot of HP and 2 death, so I really think so. Or actually, let's see what Mr. Umayan is able to do here. So the game does not end yet. They are just forced to back, but they still get to inhibs. Actually, Team Liquid just face check. G2 are just camping behind, but these are just few extra kills. Doesn't really change the outcome of the game or anything significantly. And you see Caps having pretty poor CS for his, level and the champion and matchup he's playing. But you need to remember he's a supportive player in this sense right now, and he did a lot of roams to guarantee that. So which is the last inhibitor that is remaining? We will attack that obviously, which is bot lane in the sense. He just stays back, makes sure that he throws out some bindings, throws a black shield whenever needed. He's just looking for the Skarner ulti or the Varus ulti coming down. Zones the Skarner with the ghost, walks up because, well, Wunder is not the one that really doesn't want to get grabbed. He absolutely wants to go in the middle of the enemy team, and because they were focusing this Vayne, Perks is just able to do so much work. So you saw a beautiful supportive game, a slow game from Caps, but then the rest of the series will be completely different. So thank you for watching. You can get coaching from me from my website. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe and comment on what you would like me to cover, and see you again next time.